Well, are you ready? I had to say it. But anyway, the next in the saga that is Zoey 101 has come out in the form of Zoey 102, the movie, and I was a fan of the original series as a kid, and knowing not a lot of people are going to watch this, I decided to go ahead and watch it for you, and this is my review of Zoey 102, a movie that literally has nothing to do with school, even though it still has the term 101 in the title. So grab your snacks, grab your drinks, and let's just go ahead and get into it. Roll the intro. Welcome back. Now, what is Zoey 102 about? Well, let me tell you. Zoey works for this reality show, and it feels like she acts like she isn't appreciated for her ideals. And over the years, she's distanced herself from the friends that she had at PCA. Quinn has made it big and is now getting married to Logan, inviting Zoey to the wedding as her maid of honor. Zoey, of course, says yes, then gets instructed by her job that she has to be there for the series finale, and she has to multitask going back and forth between the wedding and the series finale of the show that she's working on for her job, and hoping that nobody really finds out. She also, for some reason, hires this guy to be her fake boyfriend. I don't know why they added that to the mix. Like, she also hires this guy to be her fake boyfriend, and then Chase, her former flame from the whole TV show, comes along and he's thrown into the mix. So Zoey's dealing with a lot in this movie. Chase is now a teacher, and that adds drama to the whole scenario because they're not both over each other yet, despite being in relationships actively in this movie. Like, they're not over each other, but yet they're in relationships. She's faking being in a relationship, and he's actually in one. How is this executed? Poorly. How is this film executed? Quite poorly. And I forgot to mention another thing that's kind of thrown into the mix is that the wedding for Quinn and Logan also somewhat doubles as a high school reunion for kids of PCA, because all the advertising even included that, like, Quinn is saying, it'll be a great reunion for all of us. Come to the wedding, it'll be a great reunion for us all. So you're turning your wedding into a school reunion as well? It's like they threw in all these different ideas and decided to go with all of them. That's how it felt. It felt like they were just going for everything they decided to pitch at the meeting for what this movie should have been. There's all that stuff thrown in, and it's very poorly executed. They don't handle any of this correctly at all. Here's what I wrote in my notes as I was watching it. A lot of stuff seems to be thrown in for absolutely no reason, like Zoey having a fake date when she already has this whole thing going on, where she has to be at both a wedding and a TV series, hiding that from everybody, while also dealing with the fact that Chase is here, and calling it Zoey 102 was odd, because the name they made for the original series, Zoey 101, made sense, because they're at school, they're at a boarding school, we're following mainly Zoey and her events at school, as well as the rest of the kids at PCA, and her room number was literally 101. Zoey's room at PCA was 101. They're not at school in this movie. This movie has hardly anything to do with PCA, let alone Zoey's boarding room at school, which was 101. So why is this movie called Zoey 102? Why? It makes absolutely no sense to me. It's not even like a TV show where they're teachers at PCA, or Zoey has to go back to PCA for some reason, which is what I originally thought when this movie was announced, was they were going to bring PCA back in some kind of way, and they didn't do that. So why name the movie Zoey 102? It makes absolutely no sense. And I want to be absolutely clear. I did not go into this movie wanting to hate it. Again, I was a fan of the original series. I remember when Zoey 101 was on TV. I watched the shit out of that show. And looking back at it, I hate the fact that I looked up to Jamie Lynn Spears. But all of that aside, I feel like it does need to be mentioned considering who created Zoey 101 in the first place. But I looked at this movie with as open of a mind as possible and thinking primarily of the love that I had for this show and what that show's story really was, as well as the characters and seeing how they translate this far ahead in time. I looked at this movie with as much of an open mind as possible, and even looking at it from a strict movie reviewer / old fan of the series, looking at it now in a new lens, a new refreshed perspective, and coming back to that world. It's just a bad movie. It's just a bad movie, guys. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. It's just a bad movie. And let's talk about the acting in this movie. A lot of the actors just felt like they were either here to fill a space that was left open because a lot of the main cast members, and this is kind of where I'm going to talk about it a little bit. So if you don't want to hear the controversies or anything about what happened on the set of Zoey 101, which made it hard to be unbiased about this movie, but not impossible, go ahead and skip to this timestamp. I'm going to be putting it up right there, and I'll see you guys there. Alright, let's talk about briefly what happened on the set of Zoey 101. The first thing I want to talk about is what happened to Alexa Nicholas, who played Nicole on Zoey 101, which was the role of Zoey's best friend. Alexa accused and quite frankly has the trauma to show for Jamie Lynn bullying her on set, as well as some of the rest of the cast bullied her. Dan Schneider, who made the TV show, which already has his own problems, which I won't go into, but there are plenty of videos. If you type in Dan Schneider, you will find a wealth of information and content with a single search here on the platform. So watch some of those. If you don't know what Dan Schneider has done, do your deep dive, come back, which then you'll probably know what the situation is. But I will warn you, if you have no idea about what Dan Schneider has done, just be warned. There's a lot of disgusting stuff, including possible SA, coercion, taking advantage of young children. It's just, there's a lot with Dan Schneider, and it's a lot. So Alexa Nichols was bullied on set, and then Paul Butcher, who played Zoey's little brother, he wasn't in this movie. Neither was Alexa, which Alexa has her own YouTube channel here. I'll be putting it on the screen. It's called, it's under her name, and she has a show called Eat Predators Daily, which is her show on there, and I just want to give her a shout out because I feel like she's doing such fucking fantastic work, and I am rooting for her every step of the way. And I really hope that her and her organization can cause some real change. So, Paul Butcher, who played Zoey's brother, isn't there. There's quite a few people. Victoria Justice wasn't in it. so many of the original cast were not in this film, so we get a lot to focus on side characters like Stacy and, oh god, what's his name? I just remembered he was really creepy in the original show. I think his name was like Mark, maybe? Anyway, Stacy's a podcaster now, a true crime podcaster, and the fact that she's even there kind of breaks the continuity of several Dan Schneider shows, because the character of Stacy was in Drake and Josh as well as Sam and Cat. Also, where did her lisp go? Stacy had a lisp. Where did her lisp go? It's nowhere to be found in this movie. Let's just go ahead and get the biggest one and the one I might rant about the most out of the way, and that's Jamie Lynn Spears as Zoey Brooks, which her acting in this movie was so freaking weird. It was so weird because you have Zoey, right, who's in this movie canonically in her 20s. She's kind of down on her luck. She's working at this reality show. She's feeling unappreciated. She's looking at all her friends' like posts online and has kind of closed herself off and is living an adult life. She's living an adult life. So why is it that even though Zoey's a grown-up, Jamie Lynn Spears was playing Zoey as if Zoey was stuck at the age of 13? She's almost overacting, and it feels like a lot of, and this is the same problem with like the actor that plays Chase. Quite a few of these people, I don't think really had anything to really do with these characters once they aged out of being children. So when they had to play these roles again, the characters themselves, even though they're in adult bodies, it felt like these actors, particularly Jamie Lynn Spears, was acting almost like a teenager still as Zoey. And it was weird, like she was I don't know if it was just a case of her overacting and not really knowing what to do with Zoey, but she felt like Zoey had never aged even though Jamie Lynn had, and like almost like a teenager experiencing all this adult stuff, which the original demographic of kids that grew up with this movie are now all adults themselves, which I thought was the inherent reason why we were making this film, instead of like trying to revive it for a TV show, which would be the reason you would want your character to kind of overact a little bit, because that's inherent with a lot of children's programming. I don't know, it's just, she felt like she was overacting, and a lot of the acting in this movie was kind of terrible to me. It felt like we were focusing on a lot of characters that I didn't even remember, and that's probably because of everything that Dan Schneider did and causing a lot of the original cast to not want to be affiliated with this project. So we felt that void of all those different characters that we knew a hell of a lot more than Stacy and what's-his-face that got together at the end, is what I'm saying. And what are my final thoughts on Zoey 102? Let me tell you. I'm going to read off my notes because I feel like when I end my scripts, what I say on paper does not come out my mouth, so we're going to start doing that at the end. It was clearly made for nostalgia bait and was doing way too much for the screen time, like a Frankenstein's monster of concept that was thrown together with no merit. The whole point of the film seems to resolve around the will they, won't they of Chase and Zoey, like the original series. But it's clear that the two are not. At the end of the day, this film was a needless cash grab that banks on the nostalgia of the original series and absolutely had no real reason to exist beyond that. It wasn't trying to even be a good movie in my opinion. It was a jumbled mess of ideals that were executed poorly, and even with the whole controversies behind the scenes with various actors and the creator of the series itself, take that away and you still have a bad film. In the end, the film was bad, and the series should have stayed in the past, left to fade into obscurity like the rest of the shows that Dan has produced. Because they are past their time, and as time goes on, more comes out about these productions from its former stars, who are just looking back and seeing all the painful stuff and sharing it with everyone who is a fan. But regardless, I'm going to give this movie a solid 2 stars out of 10, and that's only because a couple jokes made me laugh. That's it. So, that's my review of Zoey 102. I watched it for you guys. You're not really missing much. At the end, Quinn and Logan get married, and of course, Zoey and Chase get together. One big happy family. They do a smaller ceremony at PCA because Quinn didn't want a large wedding. It just wasn't a good movie. Honestly, it just wasn't a good movie, and that's my score. Take it or leave it. If you don't, okay. I'm just a random person on the internet. Okay. So that's what I got for you guys. What are your thoughts? Did you watch Zoey 102 as well? Let me know in the comments below. I'm going to be posting a few more videos this week, hopefully. There's just been a lot going on in real life, as well as working on some bigger videos. And I don't know why my camera's doing that weird shit again in the background. I don't know. I can't fix it. So, if you're looking for my socials, I'll be popping them up on the screen for you now. Those are my socials, although I do still have to change the Twitter one to X, which, thank you, Elon. You gave me more work than I already have to deal with. Thanks, Elon. So, all that self-promotion out of the way, I love you all so much, and I hope you have the best day. Bye, guys.